Coming up on today's show,
I truly believe that the future should be co-created with people from all over the world. So if we keep on writing trend reports, it's just a bundle of data, which there is small group of people who value the trends or the signals that they see. But in the end, how much influence on the future does it have? That's always my question that I ask. Because I think a trend report could help, and it could help people to start about thinking about the future. But if we really want to have like this transformation in the future, in our behavior, in the way we deal with change, transformation, then we need to co-create it and not make reports and say to people, this is what's going to happen, and this is what you all have to do, because I feel that that's not like how real change um, will happen.
welcome back to Think Forward. I'm your host, Steve Fisher. And today, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to someone who's been called a child of the future. And trust me, once you hear her insights, you'll understand why. Our guest today is the founder of Wandering the Future. This Dutch futurist has been shaking up boardrooms with a simple yet radical philosophy. We need to ask the wrong questions. She argues that we become so comfortable in asking the right questions that the safe ones that give us predictable, widely accepted answers, we've forgotten how to ask the disruptive questions that actually unlock transformation. And in this era of super shifts, where everything from AI to climate change is rewriting the rules of business and society, maybe it's time we started getting a little more comfortable with being wrong. What I love about her work is how she translates complex global trends into actionable business solutions. She's not just painting pretty pictures of possible futures. She's helping organizations build what she calls future fluency, the ability to navigate uncertainty with confidence and turn today's weak signals into tomorrow's competitive advantages. Today's conversation is going to challenge some assumptions. It's going to provoke some new thinking, and maybe, just maybe, inspire you to start thinking all the wrong questions for all the right reasons. Welcome to this episode of Think Forward, Wandering the Future with Cécile Cremer. Cécile, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So it's we've been exchanging messages for quite a while, and you've been working in the field for a while. But could you love for people to hear your journey? So your journey into futures and being an innovator. What has been your path to this to where you are now?
Yeah, I think my bad actually started when I was born. Just didn't knew it then. But I was always like this super creative, curious kid, always asking like why and how and why. And I think that has driven my parents to the edge sometimes. But I think I was 17 when I went to the other side of the world. I did like this social innovate development aid travel with my high school. And that was for the first time when I thought like, whoa, there's a whole different world outside here, which I don't know anything about. And it got me very curious about other people, how they live, how their futures are going to look like. And but also the fact that we in the Western world are so much ahead on some things. But later I realized also we are way behind on other things if you compare. But at that moment, I was still like this very talented music student, which was supposed to go to music school. But unfortunately, I got very ill. And then this concept of the future all of a sudden, got real for me because the future seemed so far away. And then when I got better, I was actually a little bit obsessed with the future. So I went looking for a study. And then I started studying international trend research and creative concept design. Actually, the part of futuring, but also how do you translate that in today's world? So that combination of very analytic and very creative was something that I thought like, yes, this is what I need to do. And then in 2014, I graduated. And at that point, it was one of the first educations like in Europe with this title. But that wasn't like a good thing at the moment because then I wanted to have a job and it was almost impossible. But I was so determined to yeah, to start working in the field that I studied, that I wrote to all the big companies in Europe that were very much into trend research, futuring at that moment. So you can think of Trend One, Trend Watching, all the big names that I think everybody knows in the field. And actually, I got like all these little assignments or freelance or part-time jobs. And I thought like, okay, this is cool. And then all of a sudden I thought like so many part-time assignments. This is like, now I'm a sort of an independent futurist. And I think at that point I felt more like a trend researcher because I was very green in the field, of course. But over the years, and I think that's like from the moment I graduated till now, it's 11 years, I grew into Wondering the Future, the name of my company, and not, yeah, from all these back office, these little assignments to really cool big projects, also working on our own products, frameworks, keynotes all over the world. And and that helps my mission of spreading future awareness and helping the world and new generations to have all the skills to be resilient and adaptive to the future. Yeah, that helps my mission very well.
So, trends. We talk a lot about trends on the show,
Mhm.
and it's obviously part of my spectrum framework. Any futures framework, any method incorporates that. But there's a lot of somewhat mystery, magic, science. There's obviously we talk about weak signals. How do you how do you find trends? How do you look for them? How do you synthesize them? Like, what's any magic process or things that you could share as you get people fluent with the future?
Yeah, I actually have to say that when I work with clients, I move a little bit away from trends because I still feel that that people that are not so much in the field ask me like, what's the next trend color, or what should I wear next week, or what products should I put in my store. So I feel the word trend is still a little bit challenging if you really want to make people aware of future thinking. So I try to balance using that word. But I mean, if you want to help people think about the future or create strategy, you need them to build this framework where you can create strategy. I think in all over the years, I also developed like this extra sense for it. But for people who want to start with it, I always say like you have to have your eyes open. You have to have this like radar on your head, like spinning around, looking at all the things that you see. I do that with a database. So I have this huge database myself. Traveled the world a lot, and there I met a lot of people. I have this future network from people all over the world who say like, "Oh, Cecile, I saw this," or "Oh, I saw that." And in the beginning, it was a lot of work, but I think the rise of AI helps me even faster with diving into all this information and the weak signals and the trends. And but it's actually about reading, looking, listening, talking to people that helps me create this overall vision of what is out there. And I think it's also important to always be aware that you cannot see or that you do not see everything. So whatever work you deliver, you always have to make sure that you try to make it as inclusive as possible because we all have this blind spot of the things that we do not see.
So you have a human intelligence component to this instead of just the web searches, or there's a and you also mentioned that we could call them trend hunters, people that are out there gathering. They're kind of the forward observers in the like an intelligence, like looking out, the scouts for things. Yeah, it's the synthesis. You're right. I think a lot of it is synthesis opportunities with AI. You could you could scrape things and ingest things into LLMs and continually have it learn, but you have to also know how to ask the right question and how to ask it in a way that extracts that information. Right? And it's hard. It's a hard. People look at the trend reports, and a lot of people base their work on somebody else's work. They don't add it to it,
Mhm.
which can be challenging too because it brings in any kind of bias or any kind of gaps that are not considered?
Yeah, that's why I actually moving a little bit away from the trend reports, and that's nothing. I don't want to say anything bad about trend reports because there are some very good ones out there. But I feel like trend reports, it's sending information to other people, and I truly believe that the future should be co-created with people from all over the world. So if we keep on writing trend reports, it's just a bundle of data which there is small group of people who value the trends or the signals that they see, but in the end, how much influence on the future does it have? That's always my question that I ask, because I think a trend report could help. And it could help people to start about thinking about the future. But if we really want to have like this transformation in the future, in our behavior, in the way we deal with change, transformation, then we need to co-create it and not make reports and say to people, this is what's going to happen. And this is what you all have to do, because I feel that that's not like how real change um, will happen.
So you also emphasize the importance of mindset before strategy. So why do you believe like mindset shifts are foundational? Like why do you
I think, I mean, if you take a human being, every human being on this whole earth, they they don't have like this intrinsic motivation to change. That's just fact that we are not made to change. Like, oh, let's do something else today, or let's do something else tomorrow. So we are actually always searching for this safe haven of things, like having the same things, like having routine. Have so change is not something supernatural for humans. So if we really want to have like this system level change, I am convinced that it starts with being able to make this switch in our mindset. So if we don't create like this, what I call future fluent mindset, then everything we do, like this change, will never be intrinsic motivated. And then I wonder how good and how sustainable this change is if it's not from the mindset of, oh, this change is really needed to have a better tomorrow. Fill in the blanks, like better tomorrow, healthier tomorrow, happier tomorrow. So that's why I say, like, we need to start opening our mindsets for change, for future, and then whatever we do is on the basic of this good mindset.
you mentioned the Futures Fluent framework. Now that focuses on adaptability, resilience, and awareness.
Mhm.
Can you talk about those principles? How does this differ from other types of approaches?
It's different because it starts with saying that the future, like a future mindset, is not a one-time thing. It actually, this framework, this arose from the idea that I am really allergic to the word future-proof, and all everywhere I saw like future-proof, future-ready. I thought, like, how is everybody just accepting this word as if it's okay? Because this word, like future-proof, future-ready, that states that you can start with the future or thinking about the future or getting skills, and then at one point you're ready. And then I thought, like, no, this is not what it is. And we need something that shows that it's like this iterative process and that it changes over time. So that's how I came up with Future Fluid Framework, which states that it's a state of mind which moves and forms from the outside. So as you said, you have to have like this mindset of resilience, because this world is a challenge for a lot of people. So you should build future resilience, ready for the fact that change is not always easy or always happy change, but that you should be aware and be like almost armed for the future. And then this adaptivity, that's also from this mindset that you need to train your brain to be adaptive to change. And I think like COVID showed that that's something that was really needed in times of what like in the field is called wild cards. So you need to train your adaptivity to things that you cannot oversee or things that you weren't prepared for, but still have to make this switch in your mind. So, like, okay, this is now the reality. How am I responding to this? And I truly believe that you can train that in your brain. And then the third one, the consciousness. I always tell clients, people I talk with, that the future isn't a concept. So if you are conscious that the choices you make today are an influence on the future, even if it's like super small, because sometimes people say to me like, yeah, but I'm just like this one really little person in this big world. What influence do I have? I always say, yeah, but if you're conscious that even the smallest influence is an influence, then you can be and you can also take responsibility for this future that you are building yourself with the choices you make today. And I think, is it 100% different from all the other approaches? Probably not. And that was also not my goal. But I just wanted to create this awareness that I believe that you're never done with creating like this mindset of being prepared for the future, as you cannot be prepared fully. You always have to like train it, like you have to breathe in and out every single day, every single moment, because otherwise you die. And if you don't make future fluent thinking part of your being, then I don't want to say I'm afraid for our collective future, but I think then we can create like this happy, healthy future where we can all take this positive role. And if I say it that I say it, it sounds a little bit like utopia, but I think if we don't strive for the most preferable future, then we end up with the probable future. And I don't think we should want that.
I'm very protopian. I don't know if I'm utopian. I'm definitely versus the dystopian that we see all the time. But like how have organizations or just the individuals applied this? Like, have you been able to kind of get this into organizations?
Yes, I start showing this. So and talk about what I talked about right now. And then I combine this with the future horizon scans, which I base on this future fluid framework. So then I let I have like all these little assignments for the different focus. So future resilient, future adaptivity, future consciousness. So I have these little assignments to make them feel what I mean with it, or how they could train this. And then I start with this future horizon scan where I let them, of course, I accompany them within this process, but I let them create possible futures because I want to, as I said, I think the only future that we can make is a future that is co-created with those who need to be part of or like need to do something in that. So I help them. I always say we don't predict the future, but we imagine the future. And I help them imagine with this framework in mind, because then all of a sudden they can open up easier to think about 5 or 10 years ahead. And I have all these little methods and little challenges to help them really like get in this mindset of future fluent.
Balance the visionary kind of thinking part of this? How do you connect it back to like, because we always as futurists, people want to do something now, right? It's like, whether through backcasting or a thing, like how do you bring actionable implementation into this with
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think I'm I can be really happy about my study because as I started it in the beginning, I did this whole futuring study, but it was combined with creative concept design. Actually, that is the skill that I learned that can bring it back to today. So from this really far-fetched vision, like visioning, future visioning, I then go into this almost, I think you can call it almost design thinking process, where this future vision is the starting point to create like concepts or products or a strategy that can be used today. But we start like with going all the way to the future and then bring it back to, okay, if we create this world now, which we think of within these future horizon scans, what would the product look like in 2050, in 2040, in 2030, and then in 2025? And how, and that's also a cool thing about it, because then you can create this product or service or strategy today, but you translate it already. Okay, if we start with this product today, so for example, we created all concepts for a monastery, an old monastery. So we did this whole future research, and then we had this vision about what is the future of this. Also, it is like this area. So I would almost say it's like this, not only the object, not only the monastery, but the whole environment. So it was almost an environment concept. What does this concept need like in 2050, but also today? And then you can start building this product or idea today, but you also know what you need to do to have it like in 2030. So you have this growth strategy already in the products that you make today.
You know, this passion which we both share is, making futures thinking accessible to all. It's just, so you talked about some examples. Like, how do you work on this to democratize it, to like really, especially within the audiences? Like, how do you make sure that they're connecting to it and ongoing in an ongoing basis?
Yeah, I think that's the most challenging and difficult thing. But what I do a lot, and hopefully a lot more, is projects in education. So we developed three different educational programs now. One is for the ground school, one was for high school, and the other one was also for high school. No, was for ground school till high school. So I really want to start with the like from the beginning, by creating programs and products that can be used in schools already. I hope that I can um, be of added value to already help kids with this skill of future thinking. And that's difficult because I think all the ideas are there, but especially here, not only in the Netherlands, I think it's a broader challenge, but I can, of course, talk the best about where I'm from. What you see is that law and regulation often hold things back, because I think there are so many good initiatives besides what I'm trying to do that want this future thinking in the classroom, for example, but it's all going so slow. So what I try to do is share a lot. I do a lot of open source things, or share methods, or share insights for free, because I believe the more we spread it, the more momentum our field of work gets. And then often that opens hopefully the right doors to really make this impact on the level that it's needed to make sure that as good as everybody needs to have their language development, their math and whatever everybody has on ground school and up. I hope that if we talk to each other in 5 years, I think that's very positive, but let's say 10 years, that it's like just this subject in schools, which is like not even a discussion anymore, but it's just like this class that everybody needs to follow within educational land.
I would love if they built something like that into curriculum here in the
Curriculum.
United States. I've always said like two things people should be learning, in especially high school or middle school. Like middle school here is like uh, 11, 12 years old till, and
Mhm.
then there's high school all the way to 18. So having a mindset of this, teach them how to do futures, think about the future.
Yeah.
And then also personal finance, like how to manage their money, not get into scams or, rack up debt. you know, Both things you'll be better off for the future, right? You'll be prepared and you'll be financially, not in a debtor's prison.
I actually made some fake news. I think it's 1.5 years ago.
Cool.
And it was about the fact that from the first, I think, yeah, first of in 2025, that futures thinking would be obligated class in the Netherlands in ground school. And I had so many reactions to that, really cool conversations. And then I thought like, okay, now something is going to change. I even had like conversations with head of UNESCO and like with the Ministry of Education. And in the end, nothing happened. And I actually think that's sad because I thought this was the right momentum. I think the post went viral. I made like this. You could not even see the difference, but I made this hat like this newspaper hat, and I copied this and I like photoshopped this this news message into it. And I thought like, yeah, this should like yeah, this should even go more viral than it did, and it should change something, but it didn't. So yeah,
So an
I had,
artifact. So you so an art a speculative piece, like
yeah,
a artifact of the future type of
yeah,
object. So what do you see as the you've founded Wander in the Future, and you what's been some of the most rewarding things you've worked on, and like let's help people get some context into like the kind of projects that futurists do. Like what do you do, and what someone who might be wanting to do in for their organization, for even wherever they are, um like what are the things that you've done that help you shape a better tomorrow?
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
working
deep some deep stuff right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
for 11 years. So there's a lot of that came by. One of the things that was also in my early years, which I think is one of the most rewarding things I did, that was for the Ministry of Education in the UAE. I actually developed the educational future journey for 50 female students there. They came to Eindhoven actually in the Netherlands, like the tech city, Silicon Valley of the Netherlands, they call it. I think
Yeah.
not really, but yeah, it's like this tech era in the Netherlands, and 50 female students came there, and we developed this program where they did like an innovation challenge in 8 days. So in the morning, they went to companies to go in company and see how things worked. And we had a cooperation with Van Berlo, which is a huge designer here in the Netherlands, and they made up an innovation challenge. And I think the question was, I have to think really good because I think that's almost, I think 8 or 9 years ago. But the main research question was, what can you develop that makes people healthier and happier in the UAE? And then in these 8 days, we helped students to answer that question. So in the mornings, we went to companies that were like involved in this question. So we went to Philips and yeah, and SML, like all the big companies. And in the afternoon, we always had workshops that would help them, yeah, answer this innovation question. So, for example, target groups, about company names, about interviewing, about whatever, like everything that could help them answer this question. And then in 8 working days, they delivered like this prototype, presented it to Van Berlo, and then there was this huge innovation prize. And till the day of today, I still get messages from these kids like said, yeah, you changed our lives because you really gave us the perspective that we as females can do something. And a lot of them started their own startups after the program. And I think that's super rewarding because um, I and the whole team got the chance to give these children, these females, which in the UAE still have a different perspective on their futures. We gave them like this view on this is what your future can be as well. And the things that they came up with was, yeah, was really super super interesting. So somebody developed something. Of course, it was a prototype, not non-working, but they had this idea that there was a robot that could go into the body and then could make like this sort of army around cancer, and then it could not spread. And of course, it's like conceptual, and it has needs to have a lot more research, but like just the idea that these kids thought of that. And there was also another one. They got the first prize, I think. They developed this working suit for workers in the UAE. And for those who have been there, they are often like in this super heat and yeah, it's not always easy. And they developed this costume or this working uniform, which had all these buttons that could cool them down, or in the night when it cooled down, that they could heat it up, or that they could push it like this emergency button, and then people would come and help them. And like the idea that these young people in 8 days came up with these like disruptive, hopeful innovations. I thought like, okay, then we did something good that in such short time, thinking about the future and thinking about creating products that can increase the quality of life of target groups of people on hopefully all multi-species focus. That is something that I hope to do many more times more, because I think that will make the change of creating a hopeful and happy future.
So going looking backward to like if to recommend people just kind of starting this journey, right? Like there's it just they're by themselves, they're in an organization. How do they start this journey to futures literacy? I mean, like what are some first steps you'd recommend to cultivate this mindset?
Make
We talked about the mindset earlier, but like what are some kind of practical ways to, resource things they could get they can do?
I always say make it visible, because we rounded off a very big project with a social living corporation, and we trained all the strategic employees on future thinking. And the first thing what we did is we created a futures lab, and they had no space for it, no time, no la di da, all the check boxes why they shouldn't do things. But I think there's always a solution to it. So what we did is we built like this trend evidence wall with them to make it visible. So make the future visible in your company, and it can be as big, or you can have this huge innovation lab where you do all organize all these things. But it can also be as simple as a wall where you pin down the most important subjects for you and your company, and where you just like pinpoint all the urgent urgent matters, where you just say like once a month, for like I would say once a week, but if you say that's too much, once a month, come together around this evidence wall. Say, what have you seen? What have you heard? What is going around in your mind? What did you see in the newspaper? And just build like this organic, visible future presence in your company. And then people can experience and feel that it's like something that is really valuable. And then hopefully that creates like more FTEs and more budget to really dive into it and make this like part of um, your daily work. Because if you really want to make this change in the future, I always say to everybody who is exploring to work with it, you need to be serious about it, because otherwise it's just like ticking the box of, oh, we need to do this today. No, it needs to be part of who you are, and it needs to be part of your company's idea. And therefore start with making things visible.
So what I like to ask everyone is the legacy question. I think I'll probably do a paper at some point, just looking at everybody's answers. But, you've got a lot of years ahead in your career and you've got a lot of things you want to accomplish. But when you're sitting on the beach and you're looking back and, quiet contemplation of a life and career well done, well done, how would you like the work to be thought of, remembered? Like, how would you like what would you like to make sure people have, in the legacy of what you've done?
I hope that I gave people the confidence and the skills or the tools to see that they have an influence on their own future. And I hope that I gave people what they needed to take responsibility of creating like this hopeful future for yeah, this multiple species ecosystem that we are. Besides that, I hope that I will be remembered as this professional that people could feel and see that really work from this intrinsic motivation of creating a better tomorrow, and not from this highly commercial point of view where um, where I sold the same trick to 100 companies a day because that's not what I do. I hope to be remembered as this person that really wanted to add something valuable for all those people that will hopefully join and live on this world when I'm already not here anymore.
Okay. It's good answer. So, how can people find you? Like, if they want to work on initiatives with you, engage with your work, maybe, you know, bring you on, like, or even just learn how to build a more resilient future.
They can find me on LinkedIn. So they can just find me on Cécile Cremer. They can look at my website, wanderingthefuture.com, which is under construction, but that you can find my phone number and my email address. So you can just be in touch. And as I said, I want to be very approachable and available to everyone because I feel like I do this from this intrinsic motivation. So I always try to answer and make time for those who want to build on this happy future with me.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. And till next time.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Think Forward podcast. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms and at www.thinkforwardshow.com as well as on YouTube under Think Forward Show. See you next time.